Welcome. This is session 5 of CareerForce and More for Employers. We're so glad to have all of you here today. I'm Liz Jennings, Employer Engagement Specialist. Our focus of employer engagement is getting you the resources and tips that you need to better hire and retain your employees. So you can contact me or my coworker, Tom Reese, who's also on the call today, at any time if you want to chat more deeply about your own situations. This series, CareerForce and More for Employers, is informational sessions intended to help you become aware more of the CareerForce, the deed, the partner resources that are available at no cost to you. So we kind of say it's the who, what, why, where, and the how of the CareerForce system. And for deed, we've gone over Minnesota Works, and we're talking each week about all of the other employment specialists that we have that you could consult with. Today, June 1st, is session 5 of our series, and we're going to be talking about reaching all of Minnesota's new Americans, the immigrants and the refugees who have made Minnesota their home. Next week, I encourage you all to come back for a discussion on second chance hiring, justice-involved hiring, formerly incarcerated persons, federal bonding, and work opportunity tax credit issues. So that's next week. Some of the things on our agenda today, I'm just going to go over a little bit about deed's equity commitment, Minnesota's immigrant residents, who they are, where they come from. Then we're going to talk with deed's community liaison, Sahil, about barriers and possible solutions to recruiting immigrants. I'll cover just a few of the tip sheets and the directories that we have, and then we'll have time to answer any of your questions. You know, one of the questions we hear is like, what percentage of Minnesota's population is foreign-born? And the most recent number is 8.5% of Minnesota's population has been born in another country. Of those 479,000 people, 37% of them come from one of the countries in the Asia area. 27%, almost 28%, come from one of the countries in Africa's continent. 23% come from Latin America, which includes Central America, Mexico, and South America. And then 9%, almost 10, come from North America, meaning Canada, and 9% come from Europe. So really, we have seen the bulk of Minnesota's residents coming from Asia, Africa, and Latin America. This data comes from the American Community Survey. One resource sheet that I really recommend that you go to is Minnesota State's, well, I should say the state of Minnesota's state demographers report on the economic status of Minnesotans. I'll put the link in the chat in just a minute, but you can also go to mn.gov/admin/demography. Every 5-7 years or so, they update this with table after table. What's the educational attainment of Minnesota's residents? What's the labor force participation rate of people by country of origin? What's their employment status? What's their educational status? What's their age spread? So on. There's a lot of information. So I'll put the link in just a minute. One of the other things too, deed has created their own racial equity commitment focus. And I'm going to just go over this briefly, but then, illustrate one change that one department at Deed made just to tee up our discussion about small ways that you may be able to make to increase the number of immigrants in your workforce. So Deed's racial equity commitment is to increase the number of dollars to targeted communities, to increase our outreach and engagement with immigrant communities. And certainly with our Office of Immigrant and Refugee Affairs, soon to be retitled Office of New Americans, and in combination with our Office of Public Engagement, that's one way that Deed is doing that. They're looking at all of our programs to change any barriers that might have been systemic, and they're just making improvements wherever they can. They're really empowering all of us, including me, Tom, Sahil, to really focus on equity in everything that we do. And we're changing from the inside out. I've seen a lot of changes with the Deeds culture. And so we're trying to make this a very welcoming place. And that is incumbent on all of us. You can find this in the Deed webpage. And so one example, a couple of years ago, they had a small business COVID relief grant. And the first time they did it, they got 5,000 or more applicants. That's a really great number. But the second round of funding, they made a couple more improvements in that they translated video and print material into a couple more languages: Vietnamese, Spanish, Hmong, Somali. They increased the number of outreach sessions to 10, where they co-hosted in communities. And they increased the number of funds for our partners to use to promote the application. So then after all of these steps, Deed saw a 30% increase in applications. So above that 5,000, they were able to get 30% more applications. And they said this strong partner network really helped to get the word out to the supported applicants. So I offer that as just saying Deed has made their own commitment to this. And so at this point, then I'd like to introduce to you my colleague, Sahil. He's our community liaison, and he works with many of the immigrant groups and with our Assistant Commissioner, Abdi Wahab Mohammed, in a lot of these employer job seeker issues. So good morning, Sahil.
Good morning, Liz. Thank you so much. And good morning, everybody. And thank you for being here today with us. So basically today, as Liz already discussed, we are focusing on outreach of new new Americans, basically. I've been working as a community liaison for last year and we have been dealing with a lot of employers and job seeker engagement and the issues and opportunities available in that sector. Mostly like right now, we focused on Afghan community, which was pretty new about a year ago, and they were struggling to get employment, and also there was a lot of issues that were causing the employment harder for those community members. I think some of the best way to reach the new American communities are to basically understand the community itself. To have the organization, nonprofit, or somebody who are closely working with those population. For example, I'm working with Afghan community more often, so I know what exactly the jobs they're looking for. What are the difficulties they are facing, and what all the other communities they are facing, the issues and the problems and barriers they are facing right now. So there are multiple nonprofit organizations that are working in Minnesota right now. They are special resettlement agencies who are basically the first step helping these communities when they arrive into Minnesota. So just say LSS, Arrival Ministries, MCCs, and Karen Organization of Minnesota, and many more. So they are the one. They, if you guys share your vacancies or jobs with those organizations, that will be a good way to reach out to the community, to the communities, and basically will be an easy way. Another thing, we, as Liz mentioned, we have establishing in the process of establishing a new Office of American and Deed, and that is something will be kind of like a hub and basically a bridge between the employers and the employees and the job seeker. As we are pretty much like in the beginning of the process, so I don't have too much detail about it, but even I can leave my email here, and you guys can reach out to me, and I can share any of your links and any of your jobs, with the community, and also through the new Office of New American. During this time last year or so, some of the issues that we were facing, especially for New American in the job market, was like, for example, transportation was one of the biggest issues. So all those employers who were able to provide transportation, that was, they were successfully were able to acquire a lot of, these new employees. Just say there was I forgot the name of one of the company, which was, I think, Bix Produce was one of the company who basically did contract with a nonprofit who were providing transportation service, especially to Afghan community, and that week there was more than 30 employees that were hired by that company. So another biggest challenge that we have still facing from the employer side is the hiring process. The hiring process which is being created is most likely focused on the overall demographic of America-born employees. So especially like for people who are coming from outside, it's pretty hard and difficult for them to understand the application in the hiring process. For example, we basically refer many job seekers to Walmart. The assessment test in Walmart was so difficult. Even like, for me, I couldn't really understand it. So like for those new Americans, they are completely not understanding the system. It's pretty hard for them to even pass the assessment test. So if they can pass the assessment test, obviously they can get the job. So some of those questions, for example, is really like if you haven't worked in the industry and you haven't worked like in the Walmart system, you can really answer those questions. So like it's just I didn't mean like to single out Walmart. I'm sorry, it just came to my mind. But there was even other organizations. Some of the hiring process is kind of like complicated. And one of another issue in the hiring process, whenever we talk to employers and their representatives, they are pretty open about hiring the new Americans, and they say, yeah, we are we are welcome refugees, and we are ready to help. But when it's coming to the hiring manager, or especially like the HR department, there's a little bit, we see the gap, and we see like some sort of misunderstanding between like the representatives and the hiring manager or the HR department, because when they say, yeah, we are welcome to hire them, but when the hiring process is somehow made the way they are, which kind of become difficult for non-English speaker, or even like the people they are not fluent in English to get the job. So those are some of the biggest barriers that we have seen in the hiring process. Another another issue that we have seen is like basically understanding the corporate system of these organizations. Obviously all these new Americans are coming from all different culture and different countries of the world. So when they are getting into those specific organizations, they don't really understand the exact corporate culture of that organization. So after and there's not a proper orientation, and there's not a proper like training to basically they know what exactly going on and how they should be adopted in the system. So after a week or two working in the specific organization, I can see 50% of those individuals, they're leaving jobs, and they somehow like have some issue with either even with the system itself, or either with their supervisor or manager, or they. So basically, that's some of the reason for those individuals leaving the jobs were basically misunderstanding and not understanding the corporate culture of the specific organization. Uh, so this was some of these main issues. There's a lot of others, like just say English is one of another biggest issue. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, that some of the organization, their representative tell us we have no issue, and even they are willing to hire non-English speaker, but when it's come to hiring process, they make it harder for those individuals to get hired. So so those, and even some of the organization, they if they do hire non-speaking English, then their location is kind of like not where there's non like new American living. So for example, we have gone to some of the uh, like jobs fair where the companies are willing to hire these people, but they are kind of like outside of the metro area, and then the transportation is becoming one of the biggest issue again to for these individuals to go to those jobs, and so basically they can work for those companies. So those are some of the biggest issue we have been facing when we are working with the employers and even the job seekers. Even some of the issue which we try to tackle and find some solution was just say, for example, some of these uh, employers, they started like to tackle the issue of language. They like between the break, lunch break or something, they start having like the ESL classes. They are basically have somebody who can teach them, like prepare for even language test, even like the knowledge test. So then they can in near future they can have they can pass the written test, and then they can get their own transportation and will more basically ready for the job. Even there's some other facilitation is being provided by some of the organization. As I mentioned earlier, they have contract with some nonprofit organization who can provide the transportation services and English services. Also, even those people, those individual who doesn't speak English, the organization have provided some of the online translation services. Obviously that will cost to the employers in short term, but overall it's like one of the solutions for the non-speaker English, non-English speakers. Um, another biggest barrier, even the individual who are willing to do the job, but those jobs was kind of temporary, like you say, it was seasonal job. Some of the companies, they do hire, even if the company is close by, even they do have, they don't require, fluent English, and their job is just like, seasonal, just like for 2-3 months. Then obviously, like a lot of these individuals, they don't want to get to the job because they think, well, like by the time I understand everything and I, figure out, how to do my transportation and everything, the job will be over. So they're looking for something permanent, like for long-term career or something like that. So that's one of the other issues that we had. People were not willing to work in these industries who kind of like basically hiring temporarily, like for seasonal and seasonal hiring and things like that. So, even with that, some of the organization, with transportation, they, as I mentioned earlier, the carpool was one another thing. We worked with some of the individual. For example, if there were 5 or 10 people, they were going to the same, the company, working in the same place. We were kind of like helping them with the carpooling. One person can buy the car and basically, help the rest of the team go there. Another issue, which was, basically misunderstanding between the higher upper level in the organization and the employees. We were recommending to the employers to hire basically manager from within the community. For example, if there's like Somali community or Afghan community or any other community member who are working in the specific organization, And if there is one individual who can speak English, who is, like educated and, have the capacity and um, basically knowledge to be a supervisor, please make them a supervisor. So that supervisor is kind of like a bridge between the community members, or like the new employees and new American and the upper level management. So basically that can be an interpreter, and that can be basically like, a translator and also a supervisor. And that came out to be really having a really positive effect, basically, if a job seeker, a new American employee who have any issue, so they know who they can talk to, and they are kind of like uh, they know how to basically culture wise tackle the issue, in the like religious differences. They know how to tackle those ones. So those were some of the the solution that we found, and so far working well. Back to you, Liz, if there is any question.
Yeah, too, can you talk a little bit more about job fairs? And what does someone new to Minnesota expect when they go to a job fair? Is it different than working with native English speakers? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So job fair is really, whenever we go to job fair, especially with the new American, it's like uh, mostly like these new American, they are looking for a specific industry, right? Like some of them, they will be open to everything. The rest of them, they kind of like, they're looking for jobs they have already have experience with. For example, they have already worked in the same in that industry back in their homes. Uh, so when they're looking for job fair, they go, for example, if they have working in just say in retail, they will be looking for, hey, can I find the same industry and work in the same industry? Also, so if there's an industry like retail industry, and then that job fair, obviously it's working out. But just say if there's like, maybe like, 20 or 30 other organization, other employers who doesn't have like the specific, requirement that can fulfill the demand of those individual, obviously like it's not really working. So basically we have to, whenever we do the job fair, this is one of the things I'm telling my colleagues, we have to understand what exactly the community is looking for, what are the type of job that we are looking for, so then we can invite those employers. They are, that we know we have a job seeker for that industries. So if we just invite like everybody, all different industries, and everybody go there, a lot of times we were not accessible, because these individuals, they were looking for some specific industries, and they were looking for specific places. So basically, before the job fair, we were trying to understand, the demand and want of that specific the community or that group, what exactly what industry they are looking for, what area they are looking for, and then we can exactly just work with in that area and in the industries that they're looking for to work in.
Good. Yeah, thank you. I just posted in the chat a link to our CareerForce employer page, and I've talked in the past about how that is a of um, hub of information. So if people on the call, you just tap on for employers, gets to that main page, then it has a bunch of tip sheets. And one of them, download a handout with resources for reaching overlooked labor pools. That addresses, new Americans, people with disabilities, people from correctional facilities, everyone that we've been talking about the past couple of weeks. So I encourage you to do that. My coworker Tom Reese too talks with a lot of employers, and he's worked in this area, in the South Minneapolis area, for years. Tom, what would you add?
Thanks, Liz. I would encourage you to connect with the adult basic education programs. By the way, those are typically coordinated through school districts. So if you're looking to connect with your local provider, you would want to start with the district office and then ask about operates the ESL ABE program in your community. Reach out to that provider. Invite yourself to come and present there. As a deed employee, I've been known to do that in the past. It's a wonderful experience. You'll never meet more sincere people that really truly do want to be successful, and you get to experience that in person. So as part of your outreach and recruiting, I would certainly encourage you to reach out to those providers, ask about coming in, make it an informational session, and encourage people to follow up with you after. Thanks, Liz.
Yeah, and we do have a list of ABE programs on CareerForce MN. We also have a few articles on developing workforce strategies. Some are a couple of years old, but the information is still evergreen. So I encourage you to use the search button, first of all, for that information. You know, I posted a list of the partners. There are so many community outreach organizations that serve their clients. They have job boards of their own. They've got employer outreach specialists in the Twin Cities. I know of, you know, like the Hmong American Partnership, CLUES, African Community Services, the Latino Economic Development Center. And I also know across Rochester, St. Cloud, Duluth, Crookston, Moorhead, Wilmer, there's so many others. So if you don't already know, you know, set up a meeting with any organizations in your area and develop those relationships. So here's our contact information. I encourage you to reach out to us whenever you need to. We're always here. You know, we get questions from employers on a regular basis. And so maybe we don't have a web page for that, but then we connect that employer with someone in Indeed or CareerForce that can better address their question. So I do encourage you to reach out. I don't know if Sahil is still on. Anything else that you want to add, Sahil?
No, I mean, like, there's any question on it, anybody, any participant, any have like specific question, will be here.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for being here today, Sahil, and talking. Thank you, Tom, for all of the work that you do with the employers. And employers, let us know how we can help you too in the coming months. So take care. Hope to see you next week when we talk about justice-involved hiring. Take care.